And we'll go ahead and get started. This is actually a pretty decent. It's actually a pretty decent class, but I do have to admit I've got a lot to learn about this. And I borrowed this from an article that I have in the title. I recommend going to that website and reading it. Of course, most of it that you'll read is exactly what I've got here, but this is about tagging and hashtags in social media. And so, again, what this meeting is for, let's go over the cause and the mission. We're going to go over tags. We went over landing pages last week. We'll go over tags. We'll go over hashtags and questions. So our cause is to increase awareness of Archibus throughout the world. Our mission is to collaborate our efforts to increase traffic to our individual websites and Archibus website for the purpose of increasing sales. So what do keywords, tags, and hashtags do? First of all, how many of you are using tags in your social media?
I am not yet.
I always use it, yes.
Yeah. So we're going to go through an example of a bicycle helmet. And I actually highly recommend tags. And I'm really surprised by a lot of the recommendations they make here. I think you will be too, and I'd love to have some conversations about this. But, so you need to kind of think of the tags almost in 2 or 3 levels. And we'll get to that a little bit later. But let's say that we're going to talk about bicycle helmets, or we can talk about Archibus or IWMS or Internet of Things or Enterprise Asset Management. So tags and hashtags function slightly different. Tags are actually usually application specific, like YouTube will have tags, WordPress will have tags. I think other areas have tags as well. And hashtags are more universal. You can put the pound sign or the hashtag in front of a set of words. And what I was interested about this is that it usually gets more traffic, but the duration is less, only for a couple of days to a couple of weeks, maybe a month at the most. Any thoughts on that? Any experience with that?
No, the only experience I have is with social media not related to work, like tweets and Facebook, which allow you to search better events or related documentation or postings relates to some hashtag combination of characters. But that's it. Yep. Other than that, I don't know what else you can do with that.
So interesting. How many of you are using social media for work?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I think most of us on here. In fact, I think 95% of my social media is about work. It's not really about my personal life. So got a good audience here. All right. So kind of 5 areas to determine, your keywords. They can come from related searches. In other words, there are tools out there to help you understand what keywords are best used for you. You should use related words that are specifically to create quality traffic. It can be a little bit harder to determine, but it can be. To your product or service. And you want keywords that provide high clicks and low costs. I think this diagram is kind of a no-brainer, but it's a little bit more difficult to implement than it is to kind of relate to those 5. All right, so how do we find out what the keywords are? So, kind of, you kind of need to look at this kind of like a house. So, for example, the first brick and mortar or the foundation or, the outside of the house, what it looks like, might be the keyword, like maybe Archibus or maybe IWMS or EAM, Enterprise Asset Management. And then you kind of look at the house's floorboards, wallpapers, tiles, carpeting as secondary phrases. So you may want to go bike helmets for kids or bicycle safety or sports equipment. So we may do things like work order system or CMMS or strategic master planning or strategic space planning. And then third, you may want to look at the decor. So it might be things simply like service level agreements or churn rate or maybe even mobile. Thoughts on this? Anybody have any comments on these? This primary, secondary, tertiary look at keywords, tags.
So a question, Bob. I know it's when you pair or have multiple words, you've got this string or substring in quotes. So to use bike helmets for kids effectively, you'd need one tag that says bike helmets, another one bike helmets for kids, or
yes,
bike helmets for kids. Okay.
Yeah, so it would be both. The way I'm reading this is you want both. In fact, probably all three levels. Because you never know. You may have somebody who is looking for. So in our case, I think that we might want to have a brick and mortar phrase of enterprise asset management instead of Archibus, right? And then because you're going to get a broader net, and then maybe our secondary or maybe even tertiary one is Archibus, because it'll actually hone them into those that are looking for Archibus. But you can capture those who are looking for enterprise asset management through an EAM. Whether somebody's going enterprise asset management and our brick and mortar is Archibus, and we don't have enterprise asset management, I think we'll lose it. Any other thoughts on that concept? Do you agree? Disagree?
Well, Bob, the only thing I can say about the core piece, the broad umbrella, is it the case that sometimes some of these broad umbrellas can actually pull in other industries that are like not related to what we're talking about? For example, like real property and lease or something like that, which is an application. If that was a keyword, that has a lot of different interest groups that are out there that are not specific to what we're talking about. And asset management also strikes me as something that's very, very broad. Enterprise asset management might make it better, but I'm just wondering if there's a way that the core gets too broad and we bring in people that are not really in the industry.
No, that's a good point. So yeah, maybe the brick and mortar is Archibus or IWMS, right? Any other thoughts, guys? I'd love to have a discussion around this one because I'm struggling with this a little bit myself because I always hashtag Archibus. Archibus is always my first brick and mortar phrase.
Yeah, I've been hashtagging Archibus myself, over the last few months. So that's sort of the broad umbrella. IWMS would be another one. And I don't know if they still use CAFM or not, but it's possible. And then the applications would be the secondary key phrases like strategic space planning or something like that. So this flow does work. The only how broad is that first core keyword.
Right, and as we'll see in this article, as we go down, I'm gonna spill the beans. They're asking you to change your tags every month, which is quite a lot of activity. But anyways, that would be interesting. Any other thoughts before I move on?
One question on why change them every month. Is it just to bump them up as far as being current in the search engines?
Yes. Yeah. In fact, I'm going to show you probably about a half a dozen websites that you can actually find out the most popular tags and hashtags in your area on social media or others. So it's very fascinating.
The second question was, just another question or thought was, is there a practical limit in terms of having parallel trees? If your first keyword were IWMS and you had parallel to that another whole branch that was Archibus, or a third that was IWMS with Archibus under it, and vice versa. So interesting. A couple paths in.
Interestingly enough, this article says that 1 to 3 tags is usually what's necessary and best. I've had as many as 8 tags on an article, depending on what I'm talking about. I'd love to know what other people are doing. You guys have 1 or 2 tags? Do you have 8 tags? Do you have 20 tags? Where are you guys at on that quantity?
Oh, Bob, when you asked that, where do you mean? Like on our website? Like I tag stuff on WordPress all the time, or do you mean on like LinkedIn or?
So when I go to YouTube, when I put up a YouTube video, I average about 5 tags on YouTube.
Oh, I put like 30 tags on YouTube.
Yeah, and so the article is recommending 1 to 3, and I'm wondering if they're trying to have us write more articles to be more focused, and that may be the case, right? That 30 may dilute it, but anyways, anyone else?
I think on YouTube I used about 3 to 4 for tags.
Yeah. So this site right here, or this page right here, is something that's fantastic. This will actually tell you the most popular and the highest rated tags or hashtags used by looking at social media. So Trends Map will actually take a geographic area. So you can go into the New York area and see what the most popular hashtags are, or you can go into San Francisco or Los Angeles or Memphis, Tennessee. And each one of these, has a slightly different bent to the tagging. So hashtagify me, most popular, right? Which were related. Tweet reach will actually look at Twitter to see what the what your words and phrases are. And we've got a whole bunch of them here. So this is recorded. I go back to the recording after I get it back up and take a look, or take a snapshot of this screen now. I have not done any of these yet, but I am going to start doing them to find out what are the most popular phrases in the area that I can use as tags. If you take a look on the right-hand side, I have Archibus Social Media Marketing Lesson 10. All this came from that article, that HTTPS article. So if you want to grab that article and take a look at it and read it, you can see that I grabbed a lot of this information from there. So how to hashtag. So interestingly enough, on hashtags, they kind of have about 7 rules here. Spelling or capitalization doesn't matter. You can go up or lower. I always do camel code. Camel code is lower, upper, lower, upper on each first word, except for the very first word is lower. It doesn't matter if it's plurals. You don't have to put hyphens in the hashtag. In fact, they don't recommend you do that. But spelling means a lot. So if you misspell startup to start tip, you're going to get a different search result. Grammar, you may want to look at the variations of cook, cooking, cooked, cooker. So again, we were talking about, is enterprise asset management or integrated workforce management system better than IWMS? I'm not sure. We do talk about doing comparisons and try different ones. Spaces, I don't use spaces, and special characters. Don't start with a number. I guess the number doesn't do much. All right. Rules of thumb: 1 to 3 tags is best overall. So this is what we were talking about earlier. So what are these tags used for? In Twitter, they're used to categorize. In Pinterest, they're used to brand. In Instagram, it's used to build a community. In Google Plus, to categorize. And it's same with Tumblr. And Facebook and WordPress. How many of you are using Google Plus? I am not using Google Plus.
I am not.
Nah, I never really used it either. I don't think I've ever really used it.
So what's interesting is this article indicated that if you want higher ratings on the Google search engine, you should use Google Plus.
Well, yeah, it kind of makes sense.
Doesn't
that
it?
makes sense.
And I never thought about that. I'm like, oh, wow, okay. It does, right? All right, so step 1, we start off with what our core values are, right? So what are we trying to achieve here? And I'd like to have a little bit of discussion. what are the best words for the Archibus community? What do we think those are? Is it Internet of Things? Is it Archibus?
I mean, one term comes up a lot. I mean, workplace management is within which is of course integrated workplace management, but that's what we do. It is part of a lot of the applications that Archibus sells.
Yep. Anyone else?
That's a tough question, especially given the breadth of domains that Archibus serves. We had some internal discussions with the product teams on just how to best present a consolidated message at a very high level. What are we about? And it's the more you split things out and focus it to a specific audience, say, I'm looking over environmental and risk areas, even that's pretty broad. But I can more readily pick one or two keywords or subjects, knowing my specific audience or specific functional area. But if you getting to the big umbrella, it's very hard to encompass it all. A risk or compliance team is adjacent to the facilities or operations team. They work together a bit, but what is the word that sums it all up? I'm not sure.
I hired an Go ahead.
I heard an approach. I think that Bar from Archibus is very much likes this approach, is to treat everything as asset, and space, employees, workspaces, everything is an asset or enterprise asset. So from that perspective, maybe asset management or enterprise asset management would be a good phrase.
Yeah, these are all good. I know I hired a marketing company about 3 years ago, and their first thing was to define our cause in a sentence. And we still haven't done it. I mean, it's still very difficult. And I think our industry, IWMS industry, not just Archibus, but I think, or even our competitors, this industry, I think we're hard pressed to take this down to a single sentence that the Joe Q public could understand. It's very challenging. I would love to take that challenge on in this group and try to figure out how to get this down to a single sentence that the world would understand. But anyways, so good exercise. We should come up with our core values. Then we should need to decide which platforms we're going to use. Now, I use LinkedIn. I use Twitter. I use Facebook. I use Instagram. I have used Snapchat a little bit. Mostly with inside the company, not outside the company. What's everybody else using? What platforms do you use, and what are you finding success on? I also use YouTube, as you know.
Well, for the IMS stuff that I do, it's pretty much LinkedIn and YouTube.
Yeah.
I also think that LinkedIn is the only one that I can associate somehow with business. I know, Bob, you talk about a lot about Facebook and Twitter and others, but I had a discussion here with my team and asked their opinion after your first and second classes. They all said, look, everybody is using Facebook for social stuff. No, nobody uses it. They don't see customers sitting or making searches or look at Facebook on work-related stuff. And I never found myself doing it.
Right.
It looks to me that we are putting a lot of effort in an area that is not widely used for, like, searching a facilities management solution or something like that. I don't know if it's only my experience or my team experience or everyone else. So if we have a discussion, let me know what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, how do your Facebook posts do, Bob?
They don't do well. In fact, I actually paid $500 to have like a 30-day take it out to 1 million people type thing. And I think I got something like 4 dozen hits out of a million contacts. So let me provide context on why I go to those 4. When I post something on social media, it's the same article on all 4, and I do it within 5 minutes. So my hope on Instagram and Facebook, because LinkedIn is by far my best social media. I mean, I've had some articles close to 1,000 hits. Facebook for me is trying to get to the individual that doesn't know what I do, that I'm friends with, but they go, "Oh, we've been looking for that." That hasn't panned out yet. But it doesn't take me much long to do that. If I put an article on LinkedIn, I copy the same article onto Facebook and Instagram and Twitter. I just go boom, 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 and it's over with. I'm just trying to cover my bases.
Yep.
So, anyways, that's my approach.
I agree. I do a very similar thing. When I send our newsletter, we have a newsletter that we send to our customers and prospects, and I use eye contact for that. So eye contact, at the end, when you do the distribution, it asks you, okay, do you want to put it also on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever? And if you have a profile, all you need to do is just check, and it goes there. So it goes to all of those. And I do that for years, but I can't remember even one time that someone responded from that, or that I got any client or any prospect from that. So yes, the ease of use, I agree. It's very easy to do. But the question is, what's the outcome? What does it do for us? And I don't think it does much.
Well,
although it's easy to do.
For me, and this is going to sound like it's egotistical, but it's not really. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to set myself up as a subject matter expert in the IWMS industry. In other words, I'd like to be the Simon Sinek of IWMS. And I think each one of us should consider ourselves as that as well. Because when we've become the Simon Sinek of IWMS, then we will be searched on all those platforms. Does that make sense? So that's where I'm trying to go with this. Thoughts? Too much hubris here, guys? What do you think?
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Got a few minutes left. So the next thing is you kind of need to test it, and this is where I certainly fall down. I never go back and really test much. I mean, I look at how many hits I get, but we should go back and we should test our assumptions. Do we have the right tags? Do we have the right hashtags? Are they getting the right types of hits? We should see how they fit in the category. So again, he uses hashtagify me to test this. Go out and find out if these words are working right, if there's a better word, or other words that are similar to sensors that might be able to help us get more audience. And then you repeat 4 over and over and over again until we get the right steps or the right tags. And then this is the one that really got me: is you revise it once a month. And to be honest with you guys, I don't have the time to do it once a month. But as soon as that thought came into my head, and I'm saying this to you, it's like, am I cutting myself short by not revisiting these hashtags and redoing this? So tags and hashtags. Is there anything else to talk about on tags and hashtags? This is kind of the presentation. I hope you found it helpful.
Yeah, how about using hashtags and tags in your website? Does it have any effect at all, or?
I'm not sure. I mean, that's a great question. I don't have. I would think that it might, especially if people are searching for those hashtag type situations. Anybody have experience with using tags on their website?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've always assumed that it does. I know that like all the websites that I deal with are built in WordPress, And I know that functionality is built in there. I think specifically for the WordPress site. So that people don't do this as much as they used to, but people used to go to WordPress.com and follow blogs and stuff. And I think those tags were how you could find blogs that you might be interested in if you go to the actual WordPress site to read blogs. I think that's a leftover from that. But I always just assume that it does help, and I fill them in because it takes about 10 seconds.
Do you know if that works on WordPress if you have it on your own server? Because that's what we've done. We've actually pulled down the WordPress app.
I don't think so. Although I should probably look at that. I know I started a couple of websites on the free WordPress site and then migrated them, and I still think that there's sort of a connection there. In fact, I thought I got a notification the other day that I needed to pay $13 for some forwarding fee from that free URL over to my self-hosted one.
Yep.
So I'm not really sure how tight that connection is. That one might be connected only because it started on the free site and I migrated it. But the last 3 sites I did, I just went straight, they're just self-hosted. I never went to the free site. So I'm not 100% sure if those tags do anything or not, but it can't hurt.
Okay. Anyone else on any other thoughts? All right, we've got.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to ask. Thanks. Ask how you just keep your tags organized. Do you have a sheet or a spreadsheet or something where you keep your current and stale ones, or you have strategies for keeping that straight?
I don't have a strategy. From this lesson, I'm going to start doing that more. And again, I think the biggest nut is going back to that step 1, which what's our core. And I wouldn't mind us maybe even having a little community where we start talking about what are the best hit words in our industry.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. In fact, if all of us, if we decided on a couple and we all started using them, we might be able to kind of make those things trend.
Absolutely, right. I have a slightly different question. How many of you use your competitors as tags? Because I've done that in the past.
Nah, I haven't done that. That's not a bad idea, though.
Well, it's interesting. If you do any search for Archibus and a secondary, you will oftentimes get Manhattan CenterStone or Plan On.
Yeah, or Tririga.
Yeah, or Tririga. They'll come up because.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but I did try that with Google AdWords in keywords.
Yeah.
Using Plan On or CenterStone.
Yeah, it's interesting. Any closing thoughts on tags or hashtags? All right, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next week.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good weekend, guys.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Bob.
Take care. You bet.
Take care.
You bet. Bye-bye.